SHEDEUR Sanders may not be the central piece in these negotiations, but his name keeps surfacing, not for his play, but for what he represents. To John Harbaugh, a quarterback's success isn't just about talent. It's about whether the structure around him is strong enough to allow him to develop. That's why Harbaugh is taking his time with the Browns and others, pushing past surface-level questions about schemes or players. Sanders, in this case, is a symbol of potential that can't be realized in chaos. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Harbaugh knows it, and he wants assurances that the dysfunction won't swallow another promising talent. This isn't about SHEDEUR Sanders proving he's good enough. It's about Cleveland proving they're stable enough. Harbaugh's conditions put the spotlight where it belongs, on ownership, infrastructure, and whether real development is even possible under the current leadership. Until those questions are answered, everything else, including Sanders' future, is up in the air. John Harbaugh isn't taking meetings. He's not flying around for interviews or doing the dog and pony show. Instead, he's on the phone, running one of the most calculated power plays the NFL coaching carousel has seen in years. While other candidates get flown into team facilities and slapped into awkward photo ops, Harbaugh is working the phones, quietly vetting teams before they even get the chance to pitch him. These aren't casual chats. They're structured, deliberate, and they all come with a caveat. Harbaugh sets the tone, not the team. The Browns, the Giants, the Titans, the Raiders, and the Cardinals, none of them have had a sit-down yet, but all of them have had a wake-up call. Harbaugh's not just negotiating a contract. He's assessing power. With Cleveland, it's even more complicated. The Browns are desperate for credibility, and Harbaugh's interest has stirred up a storm inside the building. But he's made it clear. No meeting unless ownership proves they're serious about change. That starts and ends with Jimmy Haslam. Haslam's reputation precedes him. He's meddled, micromanaged, and played favorites for years. Coaches don't just leave the Browns, they flee. And Harbaugh knows it. Sources say his early calls were laser-focused on one question. Will Haslam stay out of the way? A big part of the Browns' future, at least optically, is tied to SHEDEUR Sanders. His name keeps surfacing as a potential quarterback centerpiece, and Harbaugh's been watching. But here's the kicker. Harbaugh is not obsessing over SHEDEUR's stats or highlight reels. He's asking whether the organization can support a young quarterback's development without imploding from within. Because no matter how talented SHEDEUR is, even the best prospects don't survive in chaos. And if Harbaugh doesn't believe the Browns can offer structure, it doesn't matter who's under center. He's seen too many careers wasted by dysfunction. Then there's the Stefanski situation. Technically, he's still the head coach. But in these backdoor talks, Harbaugh's presence looms so large it feels like a countdown. Stefanski's a solid coach, but the locker room knows something's brewing. The uncertainty isn't just awkward, it's destabilizing. Harbaugh isn't publicly posturing, but his behind-the-scenes maneuvering sends a clear message. He's not stepping into any job that doesn't give him control from day one. Not partial control, not influence, total command. It's no secret the Browns have talent, defensive depth, a few promising offensive pieces, draft capital. But Harbaugh doesn't see a roster. He sees a pattern. A history of good players buried by bad leadership. Recent games have shown flashes, but they always collapse under pressure, and it's never just about execution. It's always bigger than that. So when Harbaugh asks about the Browns' potential, he's not asking if they can win games. He's asking if they can stop sabotaging themselves long enough to become a real football team. SHEDEUR's workouts and film reviews are making the rounds. But for Harbaugh, it's about the environment more than the player. He's been around enough young quarterbacks to know that raw ability is meaningless without structure. And if Cleveland can't provide that, SHEDEUR's ceiling gets lower by the week. That's part of the silent negotiation. If Harbaugh takes this job, he's not just betting on himself. He's betting on the Browns becoming a functioning, disciplined organization, which they haven't been in years. The real obstacle isn't the quarterback or even the depth chart. It's Jimmy Haslam. Harbaugh has reportedly asked for more than just money. He wants autonomy, and he wants it in writing, not suggestions, not intentions. Concrete. contractual freedom to run the team without interference. Haslam has made promises before, but for Harbaugh to sign on, this can't be about good faith. It has to be enforceable, and that's a sticking point. The Browns can't buy credibility. They have to prove it, and Harbaugh's making sure they feel the pressure. Back in Berea, Stefanski's camp has gone quiet. There's no public drama, but the silence is deafening. Internally, people are already treating Harbaugh as the front-runner, even though no offer exists yet. That tells you everything about how this organization functions. Harbaugh's strategy has essentially frozen the Browns' coaching operation. They can't move forward, but they're also too afraid to move on. And that kind of limbo, it's exactly the environment Harbaugh says he won't tolerate. Every team on Harbaugh's shortlist has its flaws, but what separates contenders from dysfunction is ownership behavior. Harbaugh's calls with other teams have followed the same script. Before any discussion of salary or staff, he asks about the power structure. Who really runs the show? Who makes the final call? He's done playing the game of appearances. For him, the only thing that matters is whether he'll be allowed to build something without interference. That's not an ego trip. It's survival. Coaches can't succeed if they're constantly looking over their shoulder. And for SHEDEUR, the implications are massive. Harbaugh's involvement could change the entire trajectory of his development. If the Browns commit to real structural change and hand Harbaugh the reins, SHEDEUR would finally have a kind of stable, supportive system that top-tier QBs thrive in. But if Cleveland fumbles this chance, if Haslam refuses to let go, it's more the same. A young quarterback thrown into chaos. A wasted opportunity. Another name on the list of what could have beens. In recent matchups, the Browns have managed to showcase just enough grit to stay in the national conversation, but not enough stability to convince anyone they're headed in the right direction. It's the kind of team performance that looks fine in isolated quarters, but collapses under scrutiny. And that's where Harbaugh's evaluation kicks in. He doesn't care about a drive or a promise. He wants to know if the front office can build an identity that lasts beyond a few good Sundays. If not, no scheme will fix what's broken. The ownership issue isn't new, but it's more relevant now than ever. Haslam's pattern of hiring, firing, and interfering has made Cleveland a revolving door of philosophies. Coaches don't get a chance to build. They get cycled through like interns. Harbaugh doesn't need the job. He doesn't need the paycheck. He wants a project where he can leave a legacy. And if Haslam can't let go of the steering wheel, Harbaugh's not even going to get in the car. That tension directly affects SHEDEUR Sanders. His name keeps coming up not just because of his talent, but because of what he represents, a long-term investment. Harbaugh's coaching philosophy centers on development, patience, precision, structure. If SHEDEUR is going to flourish, he needs to be coached by someone who won't be overridden by a meddling owner. That's the foundation Harbaugh is trying to confirm before even entertaining an official sit-down. Inside the Browns facility, the Stefanski situation is a daily distraction. Publicly, it's business as usual. Privately, everyone knows the writing's on the wall. He's coaching in a vacuum, unsure whether to implement long-term systems or prepare for the exit. That kind of limbo poisons a team. Players feel it. Staff feel it. And Harbaugh is watching all of it from afar. Every uncertain press conference and dodge question tells him exactly what kind of environment he'd be stepping into. Meanwhile, Harbaugh's phone calls have become the stuff of quiet legend. Other coaches pitch themselves to teams. Harbaugh lets the teams come to him, and then flips the script. His questions aren't about draft picks or cap space. They're about internal politics. It's the kind of chess move that only someone with his resume can pull off. He's not worried about leverage. He is the leverage. Teams either offer him full command, or they lose the chance entirely. For SHEDEUR, that leverage could make all the difference. If Harbaugh signs on with the Browns, it means he believes the organization is finally ready to grow up. That sends a message not just to SHEDEUR, but to the entire league. But if Harbaugh walks away, that's a red flag. It tells everyone, including future free agents and rookies, that Cleveland hasn't changed. That development, no matter how promising, will always be undermined by chaos. And when you look at the last few seasons, the patterns are hard to ignore. Promising starts ruined by ownership drama. talent mismanaged, coaches silenced, a revolving door of systems and slogans. It's exhausting. Harbaugh sees that, too, and he's not naive. He knows that if he takes this job, he'll inherit the same landmines that blew up every regime before him, unless the people at the top finally get out of the way. That's why these phone calls aren't just interviews, they're tests. Harbaugh wants more than verbal reassurances. He's pressing Haslam to commit in writing. Stay out of football operations, allow full control of staffing, and guarantee no interference in quarterback development. Haslam hasn't been known to back off, but the pressure is mounting. Harbaugh isn't just a candidate. He's a litmus test. If Cleveland can't land him, it's not because of the money. It's because of the ownership's refusal to evolve. And all the while, Stefanski waits. He's doing his job, but even he knows that Harbaugh's shadow is already in the room. Coaches aren't dumb. They hear the rumors. They see the calls being made. And they understand when their time is running out. The team's silence about Stefanski's future is the loudest part of this story. It confirms that even inside the building, everyone is bracing for a pivot, and Harbaugh's name is the only one being whispered in serious tones. If Harbaugh does accept the job, the entire narrative around Cleveland shifts overnight. He's not a bridge hire. He's a system builder, a culture architect. His arrival would signal that the Browns finally took accountability and handed the reins to someone who knows how to win. But that's still a massive if, because Harbaugh's silence is calculated. He knows the moment he walks into the building, the expectations shift, and if Haslam breaks his promise, the fallout could be worse than ever. SHEDEUR keeps showing up, keeps throwing, keeps doing the work. But the real question isn't whether he's grinding. Everyone in the league grinds. It's whether the Browns can build a system around him that doesn't collapse the minute adversity shows up. Harbaugh's entire career has been about maximizing potential inside chaos-resistant frameworks. For him, SHEDEUR represents a litmus test, not a quarterback, but of the system that would be asked to shape him. Can Cleveland offer the kind of developmental runway that SHEDEUR needs, or is this just another cycle doomed to repeat? Looking at the Browns' recent losses, it's clear the problems aren't just on the field. Players are visibly frustrated, sideline energy plummets fast, and game plans fall apart by the second half. That's not talent failing. That's culture failing. This is exactly what Harbaugh is trying to diagnose through those covert calls. Not who's on the roster, but what happened behind the curtain when pressure hits. Do coaches get backed? Do players trust a vision? Or does everything dissolve into finger-pointing and reactive chaos? Jimmy Haslam doesn't like to be told what to do. That's been consistent throughout his time as an NFL owner. But now he's at a crossroads, because Harbaugh won't even enter the room until he's convinced that control means control. What Harbaugh is asking for isn't revolutionary. It's foundational. Stay out of the quarterback room. Let the GM and head coach build without interference. Allow a developmental arc that's longer than a news cycle. These aren't demands. They're requirements for a stable organization. Kevin Stefanski's hands are basically tied. He's expected to act like the head coach, but it's clear he's been put on borrowed time. The team hasn't renewed his support publicly, and internal trust is bleeding out with every Harbaugh headline. That uncertainty trickles down. Assistants feel it. Players definitely feel it. And game prep suffers when the guy at the top might be replaced any week. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's unsustainable. And Harbaugh is watching that dysfunction play out in real time. SHEDEUR hasn't spoken publicly about Harbaugh, but his camp is well aware of what a coaching change could mean. A strong coaching hire could change the trajectory of his career. A weak one, or worse, another unstable shuffle, would just drag him into the vortex like everyone before him. Talent development isn't magic. It's consistency. And if Harbaugh comes in with full control, SHEDEUR could finally be in a system that rewards discipline over flash and structure over reaction. But if the old habits stay, he's just the next QB they burn through. Harbaugh has turned down more offers than most coaches even get. That's not arrogance. It's clarity. He knows what he wants, and he's not budging, which is exactly why teams like the Browns are scrambling to adjust to his playbook before he even steps through the door. It's no longer about pitching Harbaugh vision. It's about proving they've matured enough to deserve one. Because Harbaugh isn't trying to win a press conference. He's trying to win meaningful football games. And he's not wasting his final coaching years on ownership drama. Every time the Browns find themselves in a winnable situation, the game finds a way to slip through their fingers. Whether it's penalties, blown assignments, or clock mismanagement, the team consistently loses the mental edge. That's a culture problem, not a talent one. Harbaugh knows that elite teams aren't built in the draft room or on highlight reels. They're built in the margins, through stability, discipline, and leadership. And right now, the Browns don't check those boxes. Not unless Haslam agrees to finally rewrite the internal rulebook. The Harbaugh deal, if it ever happens, will come down to trust. Not just Harbaugh trusting the Browns, but Haslam trusting himself to step back. That's the only way forward. Because no matter how flashy the roster or how exciting the quarterback, nothing works if the owner won't stop micromanaging. Harbaugh isn't bluffing, and he's not biting without guarantees. He's asking Haslam to do something he's never consistently done. Let football people run football operations. That's the whole deal. Strip away the layers, and that's the one non-negotiable. Meanwhile, Stefanski continues to take the high road. No leaks. No bitter sound bites. But the weight of being the placeholder is obvious. It's hard enough to lead a team in the NFL. It's even harder when your authority's been undermined by rumors that just won't go away. His silence is professional, but it's also telling. Coaches in this league know how these things go. Harbaugh doesn't need to be officially hired to be treated like the next guy. And Stefanski, despite his professionalism, is clearly being managed like a lame duck. In the end, it circles back to SHEDEUR. Every decision the Browns make from here on out will impact whether his development is accelerated or stalled. He's not just a rookie prospect anymore. He's become the symbol of whether Cleveland can support long-term success. If Harbaugh arrives, it will signal that Cleveland finally got serious about protecting its investment. But if Haslam backs out or tries to cut corners, then everyone watching will know the dysfunction won again. And SHEDEUR, like so many before him, will be left to survive it. Harbaugh's silence speaks louder than any press conference ever could. There's no teasing, no hints, no performative interest. Just a firm, deliberate pause as the Browns, and everyone else, scramble to meet a standard they're not used to being held to. It's rare to see a coach command this much leverage without lifting a finger. But that's the Harbaugh effect. He's not just a candidate. He's a mirror. He forces organizations to confront whether they're really ready for accountability or just playing dress-up in a winner's costume. Haslam is reportedly weighing it all. The image, the money, the control. And that last piece is the hardest. Because giving Harbaugh full control means giving up the part of the job Haslam has struggled with the most, letting go. Everyone inside the building knows it. If Haslam gives Harbaugh what he wants, the team has a real shot at transformation. But if he flinches, even slightly, then all of this posturing is for nothing. It's not about whether they can hire Harbaugh. It's about whether they're willing to become the kind of team that deserves him. And quietly, SHEDEUR keeps working. Footwork, timing, film. It's what you'd expect from a prospect who knows the microscope isn't going anywhere. But he also knows something else now. His trajectory might hinge on the outcome of a negotiation that has nothing to do with him and everything to do with organizational sanity. Coaches like Harbaugh aren't magic. They don't guarantee success. But they do guarantee order, structure, process. For someone like SHEDEUR, that's everything. Because without it, all the drills and reps in the world won't change where the blame falls when things go south. Cleveland's games have become studies in emotional exhaustion. One week they show promise. The next they unravel completely. No one trusts the momentum because no one trusts the infrastructure. It's not about the scoreboard anymore. It's about the pattern. The Browns keep finding new ways to underdeliver. Not because the players don't care, but because the leadership can't stop tripping over itself. That's the real crisis Harbaugh is trying to diagnose from a distance. Can this team finally stop being its own worst enemy? If Harbaugh does walk through that door, Stefanski's chapter ends. Not because of failure, but because of context. He didn't tank the team. He just never had the autonomy or the backing to elevate it. And Harbaugh, for all his demands, won't take the job under those same conditions. That's why this isn't about personalities. It's about systems. It's about whether the next coach, whoever it is, will have the freedom to shape the team without being overruled by a phone call upstairs. Until that changes, the head coach is just another figurehead. For SHEDEUR, it's all coming into focus. If the Browns wanted to succeed, they need to set the foundation now. Not next season. Not after another reset. Right now. Harbaugh could be that foundation, but only if the organization lets him be. The decision isn't just about a name. It's about a mindset. Harbaugh's conditions are a referendum on Cleveland's future. They can either take the leap and rebuild their culture, or they can stick with a cycle that's failed them for decades. And if you follow the Browns long enough, you know how rare it is for them to be this close to a turning point. The question is, will they actually take it? If you want to see how this saga unfolds, whether Harbaugh walks in or walks away, whether SHEDEUR gets the structure he needs or becomes another name in a long line of lost potential, make sure you're subscribed. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you trust Jimmy Haslam to back off for real? Do you think Harbaugh's the answer, or is this just another Browns misdirection? Hit like, share it with someone who's watched this team suffer in silence, and buckle up, because this story is just getting started.